What up, everyone, and welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast, episode 3. I got the amazing coach, mother of 3, superwoman, does it all, runs her own business, world record holder, toe works, Amy Froneman. Thanks for coming to the show, man.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for having me. Nice intro. Awesome.
I mean, there's very few people I believe like do like the most, and like you're one of them. Like, how do you find time to juggle all of it?
I think you just do. Like, if you don't have a choice, if you're just in it, you just have to. There aren't enough hours in the day. We all have the same amount of hours in the day. So sometimes you just get up earlier, and sometimes you go to bed later, and sometimes it doesn't all get done. But every day we try.
That's like I actually know, like, how does a mom of 3 and do powerlifting, which is such a time heavy sport. It demands a lot from a person. I mean, most full-time parents struggle to find time, to exercise twice a week, let alone be a competitive athlete. Like, how have you managed to find a balance for that?
Yeah. Look, I'm lucky that I have the gym in my home, and that it is what I do. So I do have that time. So I purposefully don't book clients or anybody in that time. That is my time. It's booked every single day. And it's just literally part of my day. It's the same as like my husband would schedule meetings. This is just my meeting with myself. It makes me a better mom too. I can tell you.
Like, elaborate on that. How to make you a better mom? Because some people need a little convincing on that front.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it is hard in these days. Like last night was horrible. So today I actually canned the training because I started warming up and I just realized it was just going nowhere. It was a bad night. One of the kids has got an ear infection. Then there was the load shedding, which wakes everybody up when the fans go off and the muzzies arrives. I was awake for about 3 hours in the middle of the night. I still got up at 5:30 to go walking with some of my friends this morning. We like to do like a 4 or 5K walk in the mornings. But I think that was about all my body was going to take today. So training has just been out till tomorrow when I've actually got a little bit more energy. And it's a deload week, so you must know how tired I am.
Yeah, shame, man. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. People almost always just see the highlights. They see you like, oh, you're a world record holder in powerlifting. You manage your own coaching business with Bohemian Barbell. They see all the highlights of things going well. They don't actually realize, like, day to day, there are a couple of things that get you down, like everyone else.
Yeah, totally. And also being in front of people can be very draining all day. Like, you'll know that as well. When you're face to face with clients and with people who are now paying you for your time and your expertise, you get time to just sort of sit down and yawn and go like, oh, you know what, I'm actually tired. I don't feel like doing this today. You just have to, like, big girl panties on. I don't know about your big girl panties, but big girl panties on and go.
They fit quite snug. They fit quite snug. But yeah, it can be very challenging. But like, tell me, like, how did you get started in all this? Like, what brought you to the sport of powerlifting, and like what encouraged you to take it as seriously as you have?
I started doing like strength training properly when I was working at Health 24. So I was a journalist at Health 24. When we went to Cape Town, and Cape CrossFit. CrossFit had just hit the country then. It was like still new. Nobody knew what it was. And I think there was only like 2 CrossFit gyms in the country at that stage. So that was way back in like 2009 or 2010. I can't remember exactly. And they asked me to come and try it out and write up what it was like. So they told me to do it for a month, and I did it for like a week, and I really realized that I loved it because it was completely different from anything that I'd done before. And I fell in love with it, and I did it throughout my first pregnancy, which was 2010 to, well, mostly 2011. And then after I had my kid, I realized I didn't want to go back to corporate. I didn't want to have to spend so much time traveling and going and spending time around people at the office that I didn't really like in the first place. So I realized that this is what I actually wanted to do. So I did the CrossFit certification and a few other certifications. Kettlebell, I did a kettlebell certification with Kettlebells for Africa, which is actually where I met David. It was at his gym in Claremont at the time. So it was a quite an intense 2-day course. And then after I left my job at Health 24, I realized I was pregnant again, which you'll realize is a bit of a trend in my life. And then I had to do training at home by myself, and it just wasn't the same. I couldn't get into town to do CrossFit anymore. I missed the community. I missed the strength training. So I contacted David, and he started strength training me, but it was just sort of generic strength training, not any particular purpose. And then a little after I'd had the baby, he said to me, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what's the purpose? So I said to him, well, what are my options? And he said, well, you can do like bikini comps or powerlifting. And, you know, I don't have boobs. I can't walk in heels to save my life. So, and I do love it. I loved it. So I did, since then, that was my first comp. And when I did nationals this year, that was my 10th comp. So in 10 comps. So not too bad. I guess you could say I like
Not too bad at all. That's an awesome way to get into it. And like, what do you feel like you get out of powerlifting? Like, why was that like from not exercising in that fashion before to CrossFit to powerlifting? What's powerlifting given you that you haven't found in other aspects of your life?
Do you know what it was? I think the style of training was really hard, like really challenging. It's very easy to walk away from it because it's so hard. And especially when sometimes you get a program and you look at it and you're like, it's not so bad. And then you get into it and you're like, fuck, this is horrible. Like, I don't want to do this. It's like, and then you start realizing that there's never going to be that number that you're going to hit and you're going to be like, okay, I'm strong enough now. I can stop here. You know, there's always going to be that next one to chase. And sometimes it's exhausting. Sometimes you're like, can I not just get to that point where I'm just like, okay, that's enough now. I think that this is a high enough number to have reached. Because even when you do get to that point, then you go to comp and you compete and then you leave going, yeah, when's the next one? So it's not only that, it's not only the that the training challenges you and it pushes you to physical limits, to mental limits, emotional limits. But it's also the people that are in the sport. My first actual comp, which was, I think, Unleash the Beast with Andre in Stellenbosch. I was just hooked from then because the women were just amazing. Like, I don't really talk to the men, but the women were just incredible. I've never been around women that are so supportive and so much fun, and people that I'd never met before in my life were like rooting for me, like their lives depended on it. It was just amazing.
I find your what you're saying sort of like echoes what I had Sipa on the podcast last week. And same thing. I feel like all the comps that Andre hosted, may he rest in peace. I feel like all the comps where he hosted, there was a certain vibe about them where everyone was just like supportive, helping out. There was always a great atmosphere. Like, he really brought a lot to the sport, like either directly or indirectly, but how he organized them.
Yeah, no, Andre was amazing. He's done most of the comps that I've been to. And I mean, it was a lot of the same jokes a lot of the time, but it was like it made the comp. Like, I can't imagine any comps actually being, well, I know that they're not going to be the same without him now and without his inputs. And it's such a huge gap. Like, it's incredible that one person had so much input, not just physically into the sport, but just emotionally, everything. You could see he just poured everything he had into it. And that's never going to be something that can be replaced. No,
for real. Like, I've heard. I wasn't all that close to Andre. Like, I went to a couple of the meets, but like, I would, during a meet, meet organizer's busy, so I didn't get a chance to chat to him as much as I would have liked. But like, just the stories I've heard from the people who got to spend more time with him, I'm like, I don't think there is a single person who has poured more into the sport than he has, both from a professional and private capacity. Like, The like I heard
No,
a story
absolutely.
of this one powerlifter who moved from PE to Cape Town. And he's like, listen, he moved. He got in contact with Andre. He was like, listen, I just recently moved. I'm in the powerlifting scene. Like
Yeah.
how do things work in this province? Like, what's up? And Andre was on a phone call with Andre. Andre was like, okay, cool. Like, where do you stay? And he was like, oh no, I stay in Brackenfell. It's like, okay, cool. Meet me at this coffee shop on Saturday. We'll chat through the whole thing. Only to find out, like, Andre actually lived like Fishhook side, and he drove all the way to Brackenfell just to have a meeting with some random powerlifter he didn't know, just to make the guy feel welcome and like show him the
Yeah.
ropes and be like, here's the pumps, here's the thing. If you need help, here's my number. Call me anytime. Like, he was that selfless an individual. I'm like, I don't think we're going to get anyone who's better at that than he was.
No. And also the way he would just like stop a comp, like in the middle of a comp, he'd stop and he'd be like, no, listen, your feet, check your feet first. Or like he would always give you like advice on the platform or as you're coming off the platform, didn't matter what level you were. And it was always such good advice. My clients did their first competition with him in July. And that was, as far as I know, the last competition that he hosted. And they only met him that one time. And he made such an impact on them at that competition that they were all hooked. So some of them that were initially like, I'm just going to try this out and just see how I like it. If I don't like it, they were so into it after Andre's input. Because again, they couldn't believe people were so nice that didn't even know them, that were stopping them and giving them advice, would hold up the whole competition to say like, listen, you know what's a better way of standing or a better way of holding the bar, or just give tips. And then calling me over as a coach and saying like, you know what, with this one, why don't you try this and why don't you try that? I mean, he doesn't have to do that. And it was just part of who he was.
No, it's a testament to who he was as a person. I'm hoping whoever takes the mantle in that neck of the woods keeps some of that tradition going. Yeah. Speaking about you and your athletes and stuff, you just recently had a whole bunch of athletes compete at the, what's the name of the competition now? It escapes me. The Dragar Demolition.
Yes, that was it.
How is it? You have quite a number of athletes. You're an athlete yourself. You're now coaching with Bohemian Barbell. It's like how is that transition from being like focusing as yourself as a powerlifting athlete, now coaching others, newbies into the sport coming in? Like how has that transition been for you?
It's quite hectic because it's different being on the other side of the platform and leading up to it and being responsible for people and their numbers and their training and keeping them not only physically fit and strong leading up to the comp so that they can get to the numbers that they want, but also, especially newbies, keeping them mentally ready and saying to them every time they turn around and look at you with big eyes and go, why is this so heavy? And you're like, well, you know, that's the point. You're like 2 weeks out from comp, it's going to be heavy, you know? And then to get that trust from them as well, that they're literally putting themselves in your hands and giving you their trust in something that they've never known or never done before. But you know, it is so rewarding when they to see them on the day where they're all rested and fed and all sitting giggling on the floor and loving the fact that they've got like a calorie-free day. And then just cheering each other on and just loving it. Like for me, being able to share that with people that I've been training for months or years is just, it's so rewarding. It really is. It's like they keep saying, thank you. And I'm like, I actually don't need the thanks, because just seeing you guys do it on the day and seeing like their posts on Facebook and everything with long, like, oh my God, what an amazing day, is really all that you need as a coach.
Yeah. No, it's very satisfying, like being, I like saying like it's living vicariously through your athletes. It's like, I love the sport so much. I almost want to relive it through a couple lifetimes. So like being able to do that, being like I'm part of my own journey and its own like ups and downs. I want to be part of yours too, and its own ups and downs. And like through that, I feel like I'm living it multiple times over, which is quite fulfilling. Yeah. Quite fulfilling as a coach.
It really is. And also watching them as newbies, it sort of makes you realize like how far you've come from that point, because like you see the things that they worry about that you don't even think about anymore. And you're sort of like saying to them, it's actually okay. Like, you don't, I promise you're not even going to think about that on the day. And they're like, no. I'm like, I promise you. Like my ladies, the majority of them, their biggest issue going into their first comp was that they would have to wear shorts. That was going to be, that was like, they didn't care about the weights, how heavy anything was going to be. They didn't want to be wearing shorts on the day. And I was saying to them, no one cares. I promise you, you can have like dimples from your thighs down to your ankles. No one cares. Like, everybody cares about how well you're going to do, that you get, like everybody wants you to succeed. And I remember when I competed with Danielle at Elite Raw, the one thing she said to me that stuck with me was that powerlifting is an individual sport, but it's a team event. And that is exactly what it is.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a very great way of putting it. And it's what I love about it. It's actually very empowering in that sense, because it's one of the sports where it's like literally what you look like is the furthest things from people's mind. Like it's like body positive to a max, where it's like, listen, as long as you, like, if you perform well, you've performed well. We couldn't give two shits if you're bald, if you have a beard, if you're a little hairier than normal, if you're not as hairy, long legs, short legs, like whatever your body looks like. It's your performance is the measure of like what you're doing. And even then, it's not even about like, oh no, you're lifting the heaviest weights. It's like, do you look like someone who's pushing themselves to their limit? Like that's what we're actually looking at.
Yeah.
So
that's actually another thing I was saying to my clients.
Say again?
Totally. I was saying to one of my clients leading up to the competition, because she was saying like, oh, she doesn't know, she's not lifting as heavy as the women are lifting. And I said, they're lifting their like 90 to 100%. You're lifting your 90 to 100%. It looks different on everybody. But as long as you're pushing yourself at your limit, you're still working at that they are. So that's what it's about. It's not about whether you're doing like 60 kilos for you is heavy. It feels like 130 to me is heavy. We're pushing. That's the point. And once people have been on the platform and they've experienced it, then they know.
Yeah, no, it's like powerlifters. We respect the attempt. Like if you go out there and your third attempt is 60 kilos, and it's like if it's like a solid 60, like, oh, that was a fast third, or that was like a grinder and you got it through, or you missed it but it was so close. Like, we respect the attempt. Like we like yes, there's something to be said for the guys who are like the phenoms of the sport, but like even the average newbie coming in, like there's still a certain level of respect given to all lifters who are competing.
Absolutely, because everybody's out of their comfort zone there. Nobody wants to wear a singlet, like that's also something I had to put across to the women. When they're like, oh no, I don't know if I can wear a singlet. I'm like, nobody wants to wear it, okay? It looks horrible on everybody. There's like maybe 1% of powerlifters that put on a singlet and they're like, yeah, they're looking good, curves in all the right places. But the rest of us, it's not pretty. That's not what it's about. That's why you do your hair and your makeup and your nails and, look all pretty if you want. But that at the end of the day, like you say, the people that are there, they've got short legs, long legs. You've got wide people. You've got people that are bald, people that have got beards. You've got people and everybody arrives not knowing each other. But at the end of that meet, there's a Facebook frenzy, all adding friendships and making new connections, which is incredible, with people that you would never, ever have maybe met in another life.
Powerlifting really attracts a bunch of oddballs. For instance, like if you look at just on paper, you and myself, like we come like we're slightly detached in age. You're all the way in Cape Town, I'm all the way in PE. We have very different backgrounds. Like you and I on paper shouldn't be as close friends as we actually are. And it's just like that's the beauty of the sport. It just connects people.
No, exactly, yeah. No. Although that said, my son did ask me when I told him what I was doing, that I was going to be speaking to you now, he did just ask me if you're the strongest man in the world. So I told him you are. So, best in the back to that.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Not quite yet. Give me another 5 years. Oh, that's incredible. But tell me, like, how I see you've also been getting your kids into just exercising and strength sports and a bunch of different sports actually. Like, what's your how like?
Yeah.
Is there a particular plan you have in mind? The way you're raising them is it just trying to show them experiences. Like, what's your train of thought there?
Kids that are involved in sport, I find generally are the ones that aren't going to be getting into too much trouble later on. You know, that whole idle hands story. Like my kids are very involved with nippers, and they are part of Big Bay Surf Lifesaving Club, and they're both very competitive when it comes to swimming. So really in powerlifting yet, although they love coming in here and doing squats, and they're very good at bench because of all their swimming that they do. And deadlifts and stuff, which can only help. You know? So at the moment, I would love them to take part in powerlifting one day. But for the moment, involved in swimming and in life saving. What they do in here with me will only support that. So yeah, will only just help to balance out the muscles that they're using for swimming and for running and all the stuff that life saving involves. But they absolutely love getting under the bar, and they love coming to the gym with me as well. If I go to Virgin Active, it's like a playground for them, which is awesome because I want them to be those kids or those teenage boys one day that go to Virgin Active and actually know what they're doing and pack away the weights.
Because those are few and far between. Like the 16-year-old gym bros who come into the gyms nowadays. Like Shane, I'm a very introvert. I'm a very introverted person. So like I don't like if someone's doing their thing, they're doing their thing. But yeah, I can't help but like every time I see a kid like doing the wrong thing, I can't help but like listen. I have to help. Like you're gonna hurt yourself.
Yeah. See, it's different from me because like they wouldn't take that advice so easily coming from me. Like a 40-year-old woman walking up to them in the gym going, listen, can I give you some pointers? So, but I do feel like there should be people like you in the gym to help them out because there are unfortunately too many teenagers that are just running rampant at the gym and especially on the bench, doing the bench press row, with one of them's rowing and one of them's benching. It's like hideous to watch. And no one's actually making any improvements, No, I mean, I see some things that are horrible. There are, and then obviously there's the ego. I've got 3 boys, so I know all about the male ego, the peacocking that goes. And it's just very unfortunate that there's not somebody at most of these.
So I wanted to ask you, so like being a busy mom, being I mean, you're working full time, coaching other people, you're a power lifter. Like, how does that impact your relationship with your husband? Like, what's the dynamic there? How do you guys find a balance?
We don't always. It is very tricky, and we're very different. We're literally like yin and yang. He doesn't do any exercise. He's not interested in any particular sport whatsoever, but he's very supportive of mine. So he'll say like he's not going to come watch, but he'll pay for my flights, kind of vibe. But yeah, it is very tricky. There's not a lot of time for us, so you have to sort of make time. So we will do, when we remember, we'll do a date night. Every now and then we'll just go out and catch up. But I mean, I think it's also you settle into a routine. It is difficult also because he travels. So he goes to Joburg a lot. So he's in Joburg maybe every second week. So yeah, it is very difficult actually. But when he is here, generally for the weekends, then it's just all about the kids and having fun, and we'll ride together and we just catch up as and when we can. I think there's just got to be that understanding that at this moment, it just happens to be a busy stage of our life. And we just do what we can when we can. I think that's just the motto of everything, is just do what you can when you can.
It's actually, people underestimate how well that sort of like way of thinking about it actually works. Because like I find a lot of people, and you probably see this with the clients that you work with also. People love to be like all or nothing. It's either absolutely perfect or I'm not even going to attempt. Whereas like, listen, like perfection is the enemy of good enough. Just like if you focus on doing what you can when you can do it, you find like a lot of things just work themselves out the way they're supposed to work out.
I think also there's always that, like, the movies and stuff with such pressure on people to be perfect and to be declaring undying love for each other all the time, and that's not reality. you're going to get days where you got like shit sleep and you snap at each other, or like you disagree about how to parent one of the kids, or one of them's throwing a tantrum and you're on the kid's side and not your husband. It's just, there's always going to be something. There is no perfect when you're parenting kids. So yeah, some days are great, and everybody's on the same page, and we're sitting around having dinner and being like a lovely little family, laughing and stuff. And other nights I'm like, just eat your food, nobody talk. Everybody go to bed, that's it. So it's balanced.
But tell me, now that you become a physically stronger person, has that sort of impacted the power dynamic in the relationship? Are you like at a point where it's like, listen, I could physically take you if I wanted to, so like don't talk too much. Like how's that going?
No, not so much. I think because like men are just generally physically stronger. Like he's never going to challenge me to a deadlift competition. So there's that. But there's also that, like, I'll still let him open the jar. Mostly because my calluses won't allow it. Or my hands are a bit too much cream from treating my calluses. But I think it's also just in your relationships, you end up having, when you get, we've been together now, this year's 20 years, so it's a long time. So if you get to that point where you both have your roles, to play, and like I'm the mom and the provider, and I'll always just be that one. I'm always in charge of dinners and lunches and all the food, and anything that goes with food. And I always say to him, like, I don't understand. I could never do what he does and just come home and eat whatever's given to me. I'm way too fussy for that. And I'm not fussy with food, but I'm fussy with what I like to eat. Whereas I give over to the fact that he's at work and he's sitting in front of like a camera like this all day, every day, talking to people, and doing a job that I don't know if he 100% loves, but is something that he is just doing to provide for us. So there's always that, like, give and take.
Yeah. I find like the way like society and stuff is going now. It's always like the expectation of like, oh, like for us to be for men and women, or like partners to be equal, we have to be doing the same thing, or our roles are interchangeable from each other, and that means we're equal. But I find like it's more like like you can be equal and still have, if that's what works for your relationship, still have designated, like, okay, I take care of A, B, and C, and you take care of 1, 2, and 3. And because those 6 things need to get done regardless. I'm good at these 3, you're good at those 3. Between the 2 of us, everything gets done. I feel like that's even though it's not the same, it's still a level of equality in the relationship. It's still both of us take care of what we need to take care of the relationship.
No, it's give and take, and I think it comes like with maturity. Like once you've been together for long enough, and there's no power struggle. Like that's just pointless. You have to get to the point where you realize that, like, what are you fighting for? Like there is no power struggle. And I used to be very like, like all feminism and equal rights and everything, but at the end of the day, like with us, we've always had like we spend our money individually, and then like if I run out of money, I'm like, okay, I need your card. If he's like needs something, if we're out and he's like, shit, I didn't bring my card, I use my card. There's no like shared bank account and like going through it and you spent that and I spent this, because we're in it together, so however that money comes into the relationship. I work evenings, so he has to look after the kids, and he travels, so I have to look after the kids when he's away. It just is what it is.
It's that whole harmony between things, even though it's not like exactly 50-50, exactly 100% of the time. It's like it ebbs and flows. But I think if you're together for 20 years, surely you're doing something right.
Yeah, must be. Well, we've got 3 kids, so even if we were doing it wrong, there's something there that's going right. And they're all from the same father.
It's going right. So tell me, speaking of 3 kids, like I cannot imagine the set of circumstances that would need to transpire for me to have 3 kids. But are you planning on having more? Is this like a big family thing? Is this like 13 and me? Like what's going on?
Oh, hell no. No, number 3 was a surprise. He wasn't on the cards, and he's continued to be a surprise from birth. basically. Today's his 4th birthday. But yeah, it's been a ride. The second one was already very challenging. The first one is all like you're so in love and you get lots of sleep and you like, oh, and you knew mommy and your new daddy and you're spoiling the kid. Then the second one came along, and unfortunately he came along at a bit of a difficult stage because my husband's dad died while I was pregnant with him, and then my dad died when he was 6 months old. So he was caught up in like a year of like darkness, really. But he's 100% fine. Obviously, we didn't leave him anyway. But that's, and then the third one, yeah, he was a big surprise because by then we'd already sold all the baby stuff and moved on, and we had like a 3-year-old at that stage, and we were like, no, we're way past this. And yeah, then along came Wyatt. But again, you just have to make do, because I mean, 3 private school fees is no joke. 3 boys with big appetites is no joke, and that's only going to get more expensive. So you just do what you got to do. You know, if life throws things at you constantly, it's how you deal with it. And we've just sort of learned that, like, yeah, you can have your initial freak out, but then you just need to sit down and go, okay, well, what the fuck are we going to do now? Like, there's only one way, and that's forward. So, you know, you just got to plan the best way through.
I like that. I feel like you carried a little bit of that through your powerlifting journey as well, because you were pregnant with Wyatt while still competing, right?
Yes. So I was competing at one of the regionals, and I couldn't that day. I just didn't know what was going on, and I was doing a deadlift, and I remember Andre was actually at that comp, and he was sitting there, he was going, yeah, because I was doing a proper deadlift grinder, and he loved like grinders, you know, the more there was a grind, the more he was excited. And I just couldn't lock it out, and I had it up at the top, and my hips just wouldn't lock out, and I stood there for ages that people were almost not cheering anymore. Just getting embarrassing. And then I put it down, and I just started laughing because I was like, what the hell? And I said to David, he was at that comp, and I said to him, I feel like 10% of me is missing. And it was the next week I found out I was actually 8 weeks pregnant with Wyatt. There, it just didn't even occur to me. So I was like, well, there we go. So 10% of me was busy building a human. So then after I had Wyatt, like David trained me throughout. And I mean, because I've just had him now, so some of the videos are coming through, like memories on Facebook of me freaking people out throughout the pregnancy with like 110 kilo deadlifts, like at 39 weeks pregnant, and 85 kilo squats. Like I was actually in labor while I was still squatting because I was like, just get out. Like he was like a Klingon. He would not leave. He was so comfortable in there. And then David started training me again as soon as I got the clearance from the doctor. So like 6 weeks postpartum. And then Wyatt was actually at my qualifier, the next qualifier. I was 17 weeks. Well, he was 17 weeks old when I qualified. And then he came with me when I did nationals. So that was my first nationals, and he was 6 months old. So I was still breastfeeding between sets, between lifts. I quickly ran backstage, singed it down. Yeah.
That's what I admire about you, is the dedication to even be willing to go through that. A lot of people, a lot of dedicated people would be like, listen, I'm pregnant, I have a baby, it's just been born, I'm gonna bow out, I'm gonna take some time off. And you're like, man, if I can do it, I will do it. So I'm just gonna do it.
You know what, life's short. And my mom's always said to me, like I seem to take the difficult route on everything. But I think it's because if you take the easy route all the time, there's no joy in that. You know, if you take the difficult route and you succeed in it, then that's far more rewarding than always winning at something that you can easily do.
I mean, that's true. I find I'm the same. Like me and Sipo were talking last week, and we both agreed, like it's the hollow victories are very unrewarding. It's like that. It's like that. If I win at something, I want to win because I know that the thing I won at got hard, and I gave it everything I got and succeeded, rather than like I went for low hanging fruit and got it. Big surprise.
That's exactly it. And I think that's what powerlifting, it attracts us, the people like us. It attracts other people too, but I don't think that they stay for long because it is hard and it is taxing and it is frustrating. Like there's nothing worse than giving all to your training and, you know, saying no to like lunches and dinners with friends and going out limiting like your time on certain things because you've got to go in training and fitting that in all the time. And then you get on the platform and you can't lift something that you've done in training before. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And I know you've had that experience before, and I had that this year as well. And it's shits. It really is shits. But I'll have like a little cry of the day on the day, mostly out of frustration because you're just like, fuck, but like I'm a redhead, so I'm fiery. So I like shoot up and I explode and then I come down quickly. So everything's over and done with quickly. And then I'm like, okay, it's done. There's nothing you can do about it now. So move on. Do better the next time.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing about I've said to anyone who listens to me, like powerlifting is actually a very heartbreaking sport. Like out of all the comps I've done a fair number of competitions. I can maybe count the number of comps that went 100% to plan, like, and they very few. It's 12 to 16 weeks of prep, all riding on a singular day, and I'm like, the chances of something going wrong on that singular day are very high. Like,
no, exactly.
you miss the squat, like you miss your second attempt squat, meaning you won't even get to attempt what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah.
Meaning the total you had in mind is now gone begging. There's so much that can go wrong, and it's a lot to ask for your body on one day.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very, but again, that just makes you stronger. I think mentally, physically, and hungrier. Like if you're hungry for it, that's why it's always funny when people that know what I do but don't really, like a lot of people just go like, "Oh, you're so small for a bodybuilder." I'm like, not a bodybuilder. And then they're like, "Oh, sorry, weightlifting." I'm like, still not. But anyway, let's just move on. And they always say just before your comp, they're like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, no, never. Like you never feel like you're ready. That week before comp, you're like, I feel like there should be another 3 weeks to go.
I know I'm ready if I feel like absolute dog shit leading into it. Like everything is sore. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. I would love 2 weeks of training, but I don't think I would make 2 more weeks of training.
No.
I have that sort of feeling. I'm like, okay, it should be okay. It should be good.
Yeah, that's also where I've capped it now with like, I qualified for Worlds, but I'm like, I did not have a 4th competition in me this year. It wasn't even the comp. It was going to be the training towards it. I was like, no. I know it was not going to happen. I did the strongman part of the strongman comp, and that was fun. So that was really cool. You should come down for the next one. That was really fun. And then there's deadlifts and donuts in December, which is in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Speaking of which, like good old what's his name now? Shit, his name escapes me. Artist, that's the one. Artist. Yeah. I demand royalties. I was the one who came up with that concept of deadlifts and donuts all those years back when it was in PE. I'm the one who came up with that idea. I demand royalties.
Yeah, look, I love deadlifts.
I love fun stuff like that. I love that we're doing that in sport now.
Exactly, and also just one lift is also nice. Like, I can't say I'd ever go to a bench only comp because that would be just depressing for me. But a deadlift only competition is just so much fun. I think also because it's like you get in, you do your stuff, you get out. So it's not like a full meet the whole day. Not a massive amount of prep, but lots of fun as well. And again, just to get people involved in the sport.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, not that I have anything against people who do single lift only events. Like, they have limitations, they have preferences, like all good.
Yeah.
But like powerlifting is when you do squat, bench, and deadlift, because like you don't know how physically exhausting and demanding doing those 3 on the same day to a max feels. Like squat only, bench only, deadlift only, it feels like a training day. Like when you do all 3, like that's really where your muscles test.
Like my clients leading up to their comp, they'd be like, but we only have to do 1 of each, like 3 times, like that's it. So I'm like, yeah, but it's hard. It's like your maximum effort 3 times for 3 different lifts. And they're like, yeah, no, I'll be fine. I think we're going to go out that night and party. I'm like, okay, good luck then. They made it to the boot of the car. They had a beer and they went home. Like, you just can't. Your body says no. And I mean, we've been there. My worst is like when you get to deadlifts and your legs feel hollow and you're like, oh no. Like there's nothing left. They're slightly shaky. And you've actually really doesn't feel like you've done that much. You've sort of sat down and eaten a lot all day. But, you know, it's so taxing on the body.
It's the all you did was nine hard reps. That can't be too bad. I'm like, no. It's 9 brutally hard reps with a lot of nerves, a lot of attention, weeks of prep for just it's a lot. Like it's a lot. But I feel like that's what makes it fun for me. I find like I love off-season training because I love training in general. Like, training's fun for
me too.
I love challenging myself in that way.
Yeah.
Those last 8 to 6 weeks of training though are like it's training on another level. It's just brutal and it's painful and it's lifting heavy weights when you're not in the mood necessarily to be lifting heavy today. Like you'd much rather have a fluff session because you're still so.
And usually when you're cutting weights, like I am as well, so you're in like deficit calories, so there's not even any reward of some carbs afterwards.
High calories. No, I told myself never again. Never again. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that myself again. I refuse. I'm the guy who will weigh in at like 110.5 and refuse to lose the 0.5. I'm like, nah, I mean, I'm going 25 cents. I don't care. I'm not doing it.
Well, you're already such a skinny bitch. So, I mean, there's nowhere to go from there.
Easy with the skinny work. Ouch. I'm probably like I'm toying with the idea of competing in under 110s next year. Because I'm like I competed now at nationals at the 113 vibes, and I didn't even try to weigh that light. I just ended up in that direction. So I'm like, maybe I'll do it, but I'm not going to poverty calories to do it. Like I'm just gonna, if I can go in a slight deficit and coast my way in, sure. But again, if I weigh in like 110.3, I'm like, well, I'm 110.3 then. I'm not dropping the 3.
No, that's the problem. Yeah, for me, it's always like that 500 grams. As you know, you've sat with me in cars and hotboxed in cars with me. So 500 grams is always my like. I mean, the last not this last nationals, but last year's nationals, I flew in to Pretoria or to Joburg, and I was going to weigh in that afternoon. And David said to me when I got there, he said to me, "What do you weigh?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just landed. I'm at Joburg Airport." And he's like, "Find a scale." I'm like, "Oh my God." So I had to go and find a porter and find a luggage scale upstairs in the check-in section and stand on the scale. And this poor man had no idea what I was doing. He thought I had just had some sort of eating disorder that I got off a plane and immediately needed to know what I weighed. And I was like, "Is this exact? How many grams is it out?" And then I raced through to weigh in so that I could eat. But yeah, so for me, comp day never feels like a proper comp unless I'm starving and looking forward to the refeed.
That is tragic, man. That is tragic.
I know. One day.
One day. But I was like having that because interesting fact. For those of you who don't know, me and Amy have the same coach. So I was actually chatting to David now about like the plans for 2023, and like it dawned on me how like we still have 6 weeks left of this year. I still have 4 months until when I plan on competing again. And it's like when powerlifters think of like a competitive year, like we think several months ahead, which I feel like that's one thing I find like when you give yourself a goal, whether it be a sport, whether it be like a concrete fitness goal, it like helps structure your mind where you are thinking in more long-term sort of thoughts. It's not like I'm what am I training tomorrow? It's like, no, like what am I training for 6 months from now?
No, it makes a huge difference. Also, like when you break it down, like I'm looking at the qualifier in March, and I'm like, you know, in your mind, you're like, March, okay, that's like, it's still this year. Like March is still next year. And then you break it down, you're like, okay, that's actually 17 weeks from now. So then you're like, okay, so that's a 12-week. Oh crap, that's not long.
No,
then you
it's literally like I have.
Yeah. And so
you have four, 5 weeks left of like nice off-season time, and then it's prep time.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky. David told me I don't get an off season. I get an improvement season. So
To be fair, he's labeled all my programs improvement as well.
it's okay. You know what? It's been working though. So whether it's psychological, the like renaming of it or not, it's working. So I'm happy. It's fine. As long as you're progressing, you know, there's nothing worse than never seeing that progress.
Yeah. And I feel like in powerlifting, it's one of the sports where like you can, because of several factors, actually put in 3 months worth of work and be like, my maxes didn't move. What's going on?
Yeah.
And I'd like nothing more heartbreaking than that. Shucks.
Flip, that's me on my squats. It's like ridiculous. I'm like, work my ass off for a year, 1 kilo heavier. For fuck's sakes.
Well, we'll get there. You leave no stone left unturned. But I think you and I are doing the same qualifier. You're doing the March 4th one, eh?
Yeah, here in Western Cape.
Yep.
Yes.
So we get to share a platform again for like the upteenth time. Laka.
Yes, we are. And all my clients are going to be there as well.
So it's going to be a whole lot. We should throw. I would say we should throw an after party afterwards, but like, that's not going to work. Let's after weigh in while we're curbing up. We could throw a little pre powerlifting party.
Yes. Well, what would that be? What would carb up be without you and Nicole? Then it wouldn't be the
right.
same.
Exactly. It's tradition at this point. We've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, I'm going to start cutting weight now, so I don't have to cut and sit in a hot car in March.
Yeah. If I'm going to make it to under 110, I need to start now and like coast into. If I can lose like 200 or 100 grams every week for 17 weeks, I'll get there.
That's just like no mince pies. Like you should be able to do that, right?
Mince pies are amazing.
There we go. You see, no mince pies, Eddie.
Okay. I'll eat one instead of 5. But Ames, thank you so much for hopping onto the podcast. Thank you so much for relaying a little bit of your journey to us. I would love to have you back at some point in the future. Is there anything you want to plug? I know you're taking on new clients right now with the Bohemian Barbell.
Yeah, so I'm definitely taking on new clients. I've been working with Lil as my business coach, so she's been cracking the whip on me with and also giving me some amazing ideas and work to do as well. So yeah, just follow me on Instagram and keep up to date with the things that I am offering. And it's going to be a lot of online training that I'm going to be offering. So anybody, anywhere, training and nutrition comes with it. If you're part of the deal, if you're new to it, especially. And especially women, because that's my specialty.
There we go. If you're a woman who wants to get strong AF, Amy is your girl. Thanks everyone for watching. Go ahead and look in the description down below for where you can catch me and Ames on our socials, and we'll see you in the next one.